We have a board of advisors, a group of sculptors who are ranked as some of the top sculptors in the United States as far as academic figurative sculptors. We discuss all of these things. These are from the drawings. They're all quite more than proficient in anatomy. And we look at these drawings, Rod and I, all of us talk about this individually, occasionally in groups. And for example, we can take this leg here, front left lifted leg here. And if you look at this drawing here, this drawing is done from life. This is backwards. And actually when you flip it, it's pretty easy to read. I can read it fairly easy. It's measured in braccia, which is arm in Italian, which is I think 20 inches and 1/16 of an inch, something to that effect. But if you look at the articulation on this, this is pretty well articulated on that piece there. All right, we have the same shoe on here. I've changed the fetlock a bit, but still, there are divisions in the muscle which you don't quite often see, which are articulated on that piece. So as much as possible, I've tried to use the drawings, the type of wrinkles. Now, because he did individualistic drawings, there are some horses who did something like this, which is called winging. All right, a normal horse would not stand with his foot way out here and move this way. He would fall over. In fact, we had the armature in that way, and it looked so awkward as a sculpture. So we moved the entire leg armature into the center here. So we did try as much as possible to adhere to these drawings. These are the Melzi copies of the Da Vinci drawing, and they are anatomically very, very strange. So we did go about actually sculpting the piece in that way, analyzing it anatomically, and realizing that it just wasn't going to work. It doesn't work. In the drawing, people wouldn't really notice it, but on a big piece they would. But I have taken liberties. If we look at the Verrocchio right here, who was an anatomist, now he was Da Vinci's teacher. If you look at these drawings here closely, you'll see how ridiculous looking they are. This horse right here is towing out so severely.
Sure is.
And from the back view,
I've never seen a horse.
from the back view, he looks absurd. So these are Da Vinci's, Verrocchio's drawings. And then when you look at this here, there are leg bones that do not exist. This is all anatomically incorrect, absolutely incorrect.
And that was Da Vinci's teacher.
That was Da Vinci's teacher, Andrea del Verrocchio.
But basically what you tried to reproduce here is what you think from all the Da Vinci drawings, his teachers, his students, his people working with him. This is the way the end result would look if Da Vinci was doing it in your imagination.
In my imagination,
or
that's
in, your
in my humble imagination.
Yeah.
Yes, it's.
But that's what has to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to say.
It's absolutely
Da Vinci
impossible.
would have produced exactly this or
It's
this
not-
or this. He
we
was
couldn't-
going through evolutionary stages.
Couldn't have even said really close. I mean, to think of putting my mind where his is just.
Yeah, and
this
then you
is
have a
this
whole
is
lot
my interpretation. It's a group's interpretation.
How many in the group were there about, in the scholars? And,
5 of us: Rod, myself.
But then you had some professors and other people.
Yes, and we had others. We have
of
historical scholars.
That are
And you called, I think even, Charlie Dent called them all together earlier, and then you
Yes,
called them together them again, didn't you?
Well, Charlie was in touch with them, and then Roger has been in touch with Carlo Pedretti, who's the world's leading Da Vinci scholar. So there has been a dialogue going with him. We met him up at the opening of the Museum of Science in Boston when they had their show up there, and we had discussions with him. And Roger's had ongoing discussions. He went out to California to see him. So that
Has he been back to discuss
He
this
has
with
not
you?
seen this horse. No,
He's
but
not seen
Chandler
this horse.
Kerwin has seen it.
Chandler Kerwin?
Chandler Kerwin, who
he saw the
his area of
smaller
expertise, I
model.
think, is in
He's traveling very difficult.
mechanical inventions during that time and how it was applicable to art. I'm not really sure, but
Very.
is a brilliant man, and he saw the horse and was very happy about it. And his analysis of it was very different from mine. Mine is a very intuitive analysis, an artistic analysis, anatomical analysis. He came from a completely different perspective of what the rider would have looked like and the composition and the twist and how if you walked around it, it kept you It kept you moving and it kept you intrigued about all aspects of the horse. I intuitively do these things. I don't think about them. My sensibility is in that way, but I cannot articulate it.
He was incredibly sensitive, which impressed me. Most scholars and historians don't have the sensitivity that I saw
He
in
had
Chandler.
a powerful aesthetic sensibility.
And one of the things that he pointed out was that he felt that this horse had the same latent power that you see in the painting of the Last Supper, which you know.
Well, he was talking about the kind of tension that is created, that can be created in a just a moment.
Yeah. In
the Last Supper, where things are just being revealed.
So that was.
The expression on the face, I didn't get to that actually. It's another combination between, because it's so difficult to see these horses. I took basically this face right here. So I'm utilizing this face, this kind of eye. He always articulated.
Yeah, Leonardo's original drawing.
This is an original drawing, which is much smaller actually. I took this kind of profile with the open mouth, this very aggressive, forward-looking horse. Also the momentum is pushed way forward. Also utilizing this horse, in which you see a good amount of compression and a turn, which gets him off a straight line. What we wanted to create was a horse which was being reined in, a very collected, powerful horse which would be suitable to a patron like Sforza. And
like he
a very virile. Oh, he's a very virile animal. I made sure you could see that he was quite virile.
That's how I control Milan in my governmental issues.
Yeah. And of course, the horses quite often were drawn during that time with a broken bit. They had the classical bit bar in their mouth, which is apparent in the horses of San Marco, which came from Constantinople. And what Dandolo, who actually took them from Constantinople and put them in Venice, did was, symbolically, they broke the bits off to show the unrestrained power.
Does a broken bit give a different expression than a
well,
it
would, what it was broken right here. So you see the bar.
Broken in the middle.
No, and right here, for example. But it would have looked superfluous. There's no reason to put it in there. But quite often you'll see that. Here's another one right here. This is the Hellenistic horse, which Da Vinci would have seen. He would have seen these two pieces. One of the interesting things, if you follow in evolution, people who are influenced, the artists who are influenced by early sculpture, you can see it right here. This is the Donatello sculpture of Gattamelata. You take this head, and strangely enough, when I was in Italy in '91, I photographed the Hellenistic head, this head right here. And I took close-up details. In a book I found the Gattamelata head, and if you come down and look closely at it, you'll realize that this ear is identical to this ear. The same tufts of fur, identical in the way the folds are under here. Look at the mouth.
Copied, did they?
He copied it exactly. If you look at the mouth and the articulation within the mouth right here, the way the nostrils are, it's identical. When he's concentrating on certain things, and there seem to be a number of different kinds of drawings that he did, some were just locomotive drawings. Okay, these are just trying to, and he went over and over, trying to figure out if he was going to do an ambling horse, which was a classic way of doing an equestrian sculpture during that time, which showed restraint and force and culture and control, because it's not a normal gait for a horse to move that way. They couldn't quite figure out if he was going to do that. What it means is the horse is basically pacing. He's got 2 legs off the ground and 2 legs on the ground, which technically is not a very good thing to do with a large bronze. So he changed the position so that you've got diagonal legs on the ground. So these are locomotive drawings. He cared nothing about the anatomy in here. He was looking at the silhouette. You see, and then you have other drawings which are strict anatomical drawings.
So some of the drawings are for...
Manes are superfluous. Manes and tails are very unimportant at that point.
But he wouldn't have drawn one without, he wouldn't have finished a model without the mane.
No, he would not have.
It's just no drawings representing the mane as he would have finally drawn.
So we have to figure out how he did it. And that's where we start looking at the background material all through here, who his teacher was, what he would have seen at that time. And also look at this Hellenistic mane. You see that kind of articulation in it. So he would have seen this for sure. He obviously probably would have worked in that studio. He would have seen the Hellenistic head because it was in the Medici collection. And that was in Florence. So you take all of those influences, philosophically what he would have done, who he would have talked to, the kind of influences on him, where he worked, how he learned the technique of doing hair, what his philosophy was on energy and hair, wind and water, and take that. That's not going to come out of any drawings. I have to use all of that and put it together and try to create something.
There were some drawings Leonardo did apparently he did them for the casting, for a proposed casting.
Right, right.
The drawings that show the horse upside down in the ground and so on. Do you have those? Do you have copies of those?
I do have quite a number of copies of those.
Oh,
those are the ones who are
they're not up here.
Well, because
They're too tiny to be of any use for you?
it's not that they're too tiny. Are you talking about the position of the horse and what he would have projected
they're
to?
just
There's some discrepancy because people thought that he did the drawings after the horse was done, but they are so diverse as far as the position of the head goes. He also may have done them according to the technique that was used prior to doing the horse itself, because he had to estimate what the mold costs would be.
Yeah.
You see, he had to project how many pounds of this, how many pounds of that. So he would have drawn the horse. He hadn't resolved anything yet. So when people say, well, obviously he did the mold drawing this way, therefore the horse's head should be that, we're not really sure. You know, what I'm really looking at is the whole evolution of his drawings.
Yeah.
If he was unable to...
Where is this drawing from, by the way? I know that's a reversed one now.
That's actually from a Trivulzio monument. So
That
my,
is the Trivulzio
my feeling is that...
Just like this one, slightly different neck in the two,
Yes,
but
yes.
otherwise, yeah.
My feeling is that if he wasn't able to fulfill the Sforza monument design, which he had worked on for so long, we know that he didn't settle on a rearing horse. He settled on either the ambling horse or the walking horse or the high-trotting horse. And this is a combination of everything. He would have tried to fulfill this unfulfilled design again,
Yeah.
which then moved into the Trivulzio monument. That's why I believe that he continued with that.
Yeah.
So.
That's a very...
Larry, one
solid.
time I can remember our examining the drawings you were talking about, and we were looking, for example, at the position of the head on a drawing that he has that shows the gates, where the tubes where the bronze runs
where the
in.
bronze would come.
And we were deciding if he had the head down, you wouldn't be able to see where he was putting the gates. It was like...
Oh, these are the latches.
His drawing
Yeah.
was to figure out, yes,
Wait,
the
you're-
engineering of the
different
board.
Right, you're talking about the latchings underneath the neck. Well, I discussed it with the advisors, and we said, if you were going to draw the mold sections and how they latch together, how would you do it with the head down? And they said no.
You couldn't.
Just,
Right.
just
See,
for
I was
drawing's
really more
sake.
interested in that for the position of the legs, but as I recall those drawings, the leg position is pretty much fixed.
They're very much like that. The only
Almost
difference,
exactly
the
that.
only difference is that the head moves a little
The
bit
head is
out,
out.
moves down,
Yeah.
and the majority of them in the drawings are down. And really, if you think about Leonardo and the kind of work that he did, the kind of power that he had in his horses, and the compression, he was constantly looking for this compression, this almost explosion of energy, that I felt that that's the way he would have done it. To throw this horse into a momentum, this forward momentum, to put the head up in the air, you lose it.
Yeah.
You lose the entire power of it moving.
Would he have poured the head upside down also in the ground when he finally got to pouring?
Would he have poured the...
Did they do all that pouring in the ground?
casting.
Because that's
They
the
would
only way
have.
could
They would have done it in the ground in one piece. And actually, there is a Louis XIV sculpture, which I think was a few feet smaller than the Da Vinci sculpture, which was successfully poured in one piece. And there are many small sculptures of that. So there is a Louis XIV on the horse.
Well, that Sun King one that's at Versailles? That's the one?
Yeah.
That was one piece?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was destroyed. I don't remember when it was destroyed, but it was successfully cast, and supposedly because of Da Vinci's notes.
Now, in the magazine articles, it said they weigh 78 to 80 tons by being poured more solidly than we
4
do
inches
now.
thick.
4 inches thick.
Right.
And then also, I think the 24-foot one will be about 11 or 12 tons. Is that what you
Yeah.
estimate?
Yeah.
What will the 21-foot maybe be estimated to be?
Ooh, these are technical questions which I have to refer to someone in the
Give me a
foundry.
technical
I
answer.
have,
But I mean, if those are...
I have no idea.
Let's say it became 12 tons, the 21-foot might be 9 tons or 10 tons.
21 is to 24.
Is that 21 24ths? Would that be it? 7/8?
Yeah, but you're dealing with
12%,
cube function
Yeah,
rather than
yeah.
Yeah, it's
direct
roughly.
mathematics.
So it could be around 9 tons or 10 tons or some other figure.
I think, Nina, you have done a brilliant job, absolutely brilliant job
Well,
of
thank you.
imagining and bringing the thing off.
Thank
And
you.
You know, too, you've seen Renaissance horses in Italy, and this thing is a Renaissance horse. When you look at it, your whole sense of it is that's what the Renaissance is all about. And yeah, I've never seen a Leonardo horse because there isn't one, but it sure looks like one to me.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.